here is what it's actually going to take for you to complete a PhD in 1 to 2 years. And you will need really the following. I think this is important to think about. So the first thing that I would look for if you're looking to get through a PhD extremely quickly is you're going to look for a program that has a combined master's and PhD program. Now, this is kind of cheating because what you're doing is doing the coursework portion of the PhD at the beginning in the master's program and then going and doing a PhD. Now, I know that there's several American schools that do this, and you know, the Canadian schools, there was one Canadian school, the University of Waterloo, would have probably have done something similar to this. That's where I was. That's all I know. That's the only reason I'm pointing out that school. But, you know, a number of different schools would be doing that, where you do a master's program. Maybe it's a master's in economics, for example, and then you do a PhD. And you don't do any coursework during your PhD because you already did the master's, all the coursework that you needed through your master's program, where it was all really rigorous and it's all the same courses anyways. And so you can make a longer master's program and make it 2 to 3 years where you take a lot of courses and you get brushed up in a lot of different things. And then after that, you go into your PhD program and transition into a PhD program. So the second thing that's important is you're going to need to have a very strong understanding of methodology and statistics or whatever research method that you're looking at. And that's why you have to do this coursework at the beginning, is to get that understanding so you can be off to the races by the time you actually do your PhD and you're actually just doing your research once you're doing your PhD. And that's it. You're focused on doing your research and writing your dissertation, writing your thesis in 1 to 2 years, and everything else is you have that understanding. Here's the issue. Virtually nobody is going to have that understanding, and the people that think they have that understanding, they're kidding themselves. They don't have a strong understanding. I did an engineering program at a very strong university in terms of an engineering program, the top in the country in Canada, and I thought I had a pretty good understanding of statistics. Turns out I really didn't once I started to actually go take a deeper dive into some of the statistics. And I still don't feel like I have a strong understanding, but I have a better understanding of some of these things after taking graduate PhD level courses. So you're going to have to do that, and you're going to have to make that judgment call whether you have a good enough understanding. And I guarantee you the vast majority of the people don't. You will learn a tremendous amount when you take PhD graduate level courses. Now, the third thing, I think this is very, very important for you to think about. It's not just about you. At the end of the day, it's about you and the relationship that you have with a supervisor. And you're going to need a supervisor that is very supportive and with a couple of caveats that they generally don't care about the thesis quality. If you're going to get a PhD done in a year, you're just not going to be able to put in the same level of quality of somebody that's going to take 3 or 4 years to do their thesis. It just is not going to be like that because, maybe you need to go collect data. Well, collecting that data, you're going to be forced to collecting things that are really obvious and very simple to get. You're not going to be able to get something that is going to take you 3 to 4 months. Or maybe you go and live someplace. Maybe you go to the Arctic and you live someplace and investigate something. You're just not going to be able to do that. You just don't have the time. So you're going to have to rely on secondary sources of data and just rely on getting the darn thing done at the end of the day. All right, so you're also your supervisor really needs to be a person that works their butt off as well and does quick turnarounds with everything that they do. They can't sit there on your dissertation and wait before they give you comments. It's not going to work out. So the chances of finding somebody like that is not going to care about quality as much as they should, that they are supportive with this decision. Most people are not going to be supportive with this decision, and I'll talk about why in a second. And then they're going to have to do things very quickly. So they're putting a lot of effort with this dissertation, and for virtually no gain. They're going to gain very, very little from this. And most people are just not going to want to do that. They're not going to put in that time. So the fourth thing you're going to have to do for that year or 2 years, you're going to have to work. You're going to have to get up at 6 a.m., start working, and don't finish working until about 11 p.m. every day. So what you're doing is you're condensing an 8 to 10 hour work day that would take, maybe over the course of several years, 3 or 4 years or whatnot, to actually get your dissertation done, and condensing it into a year or two. So you're just going to have to make up the hours in other ways by just working ridiculously long hours, 6 a.m. to 11 p.m. And I'm not talking about getting up at 6 a.m. I'm talking about starting work at 6 a.m. and writing the whole day until 11 p.m. And you're taking very little lunch breaks. You're taking very little dinner breaks. The reason is just doing a dissertation. There's a lot of grunt work that you have to do to write 200 pages, which is, I think, is a kind of normal amount. 100 pages is on the short side. 200 pages is, that's a hefty dissertation. Anywhere between 150 to 200. More than that, it's a long dissertation. It's longer. But so you're looking at writing that amount and actually doing a good job at that, where it's not just drivel. It's going to take you a lot of time. I've seen it done where people can do a lot in a short amount of time in terms of writing, but it still takes you a lot of time. It's still going to take you at least 6 months to do that. And then you're going to have to get feedback and navigate the entire process of doing that. And there's a whole bunch of administrative stuff that happens in the background if you don't know this. You have to get deadlines and things like that to make sure that you actually just complete everything within that year. Now, the fifth thing is, and a lot of people are very, very unusual that are able to do this. And there's only a couple people that I know that have been able to do something similar. Maybe it's 3 years. They are extremely dedicated. They're very, very focused. So dedicated, meaning that they are dedicated to the profession. They want to actually do this thing. They're focused. They're not distracted by a lot of things like doing YouTube videos, right? They're going to be very selfish with their time. They're also going to be extremely bright. Generally, they're very, very smart and dedicated, and they can just get things done. Now, the sixth thing that you have to take into account, and this is very, very important, and this is what the supervisor, most people are not going to want you to do this, and it's going to be discouraged by the vast majority of the people that are looking out for your benefit, is you're sacrificing a tremendous amount of long-term benefit by doing it quickly. You have to realize that it's going to be difficult to get a decent academic job to do a PhD in 1 to 2 years. It's just not going to happen. And in fact, the cycle time for when you actually apply for academic jobs, you would have to apply the time that you're actually applying and getting into your PhD program, which is not going to happen. It takes a year by the time you're in the academic job market cycle. By the time you actually get a job, it starts sometime in August, and it will go until you won't find out until you actually have a job all settled down until December and January. And then you got to wait until the following year, until the following summer to actually get that academic job. So it's virtually impossible for you to get an academic job unless you have one prearranged. So sometimes people do. If they're in the military, for example, they might actually be doing a PhD for part of their military service, and then they go and work at one of the naval academies, for example, or they work at one of the military academies where they actually get a job at that. And then they're rushing to get things through. But you're sacrificing a tremendous amount of long-term benefit because you just simply cannot do a good dissertation, a good thesis in that amount of time. You'll be able to do one that's adequate, but you won't be able to do one that's decent enough to actually get published in really good journals, which is what every other supervisor and advisor that you talk to is going to want you to do, is to do something that's publishable, because they're in it. They want to work with you because they are actually benefiting from this relationship tremendously. If you get a publication with the work that you've done jointly with them, they get a publication because you have to put their name on it. It's not a have to, but there is strong obligations for you to do that and to be a decent human being, to actually contribute and give those people credit for the things that they've actually done. So that's why nobody is going to make the investment, or only a rare person is going to want to make the investment on somebody that's going to want to do a PhD in 1 or 2 years. They're just, unfortunately, the quality is just not going to be there, and you're not going to be able to publish this stuff. Most people that do it within that short amount of time, they end up not publishing from their dissertation, and then they have to publish in other ways and work their butt off in other ways to get that work, to get the tenure, to actually get through the academic process. So my point is, with this, is I would not rush your PhD. Take this as one of the most important times in your life where you actually have to give yourself time to discover something new about not only the world around you, but about yourself.